Yo, what is going on, investors? It is your boy Maleki, the growth and dividend growth investor. In this channel, I have one simple objective, and that is to help you build wealth. In today's video, we'll be discussing why you need to get serious about retirement planning. Whether you're 24, 30, 40, 50 years old, doesn't matter. You need to get serious about retirement planning, and you need to get serious now. Also in the video, we'll be discussing what to invest for your retirement, as well as how much to be invested. Let's get to it. There are way too many Americans relying on Social Security for the retirement benefit. Straight off of the Social Security website, the government is going to guarantee about 40% of our annual income to be paid out as a retirement benefit when we do retire. So let's run some numbers real quick. The median US salary is about $75,000. With $75,000, 40% of that, which is what the Social Security average is, 40% of that is $30,000. So when you retire, you're going to be getting about half of your salary paid out as a Social Security benefit. That is not the best thing to rely on that just for your retirement. And a lot of people are banking on that. Social Security is going to pay you $30,000. How much money do you need saved up to cover the rest of the $45,000 you need? In this graph over here, I'm going to display how much you need. So there's different numbers on here. So just to supplement that, you would get $75,000 a year. For you to get $50,000 annualized paid out to you with the amount you saved up in an investment account or a retirement account, you would need over $1 million saved up. And let me tell you one thing, Americans do not have that much saved up. The amount that Americans actually have saved up are as follows. If you're in your 20s, you have about $16,000 saved up. If you're in your 30s, you have about $43,000 saved up. If you're in your 50s, you have about $117,000 saved up. And if you're in your 60s, you have $172,000 saved up. And according to that last graph, you need $1 million to supplement the other $45,000 you weren't getting from Social Security. So that is not good, Americans. This is not good. This is why you need to get serious about it, because people don't think about this when they're in their 20s or their 30s, and they start thinking about retirement when they're in 50s, and sometimes that is too late. If I can save anybody time and headache by just having them start earlier, that is my main goal. That is the goal I want you guys to have. So basically 16.2% of Americans have over $100,000 saved up for retirement. Retirement is supposed to be a time where you're reinventing yourself and enjoying your time off from being a productive member of society. If you don't have any money saved up and you're relying strictly on Social Security, you're not going to have a dignified, honorable retirement. Luckily, because you're watching this video, there are certain strategies you can do to help you get serious about retirement. The first thing is, what are you going to be investing in? So I want to view Social Security as a non-existent factor. I want you to completely fund your own retirement, and anything you get out of Social Security as just a benefit on top of it. It's like the extra credit. So the first thing you're gonna do is you need to pick a retirement account. There's a couple options you can use when picking a retirement account. And the best thing that you can do is, if you work for a company, most companies will offer something called a 401k or a 403b. This is a employee-sponsored retirement account where you put money in, and then sometimes your company will match you. Not every single company matches the amount of money you put in, but that is okay, as long as it's a retirement account. When putting money into this account, usually it's invested in something called a target retirement fund. What this target retirement fund does is it invests in stocks and invests in bonds. And the stocks it invests in is it invests in the total US market, the total international market, the total US bond market, and the total international bond market. So what this target retirement fund does is it invests in all of these things, and it's kind of a set it and forget it type thing. So once you have a job, you're putting money in, maybe your employer will match you, you just keep putting money in, it's funded, and then that's all you have to do. You're gonna be putting towards your retirement. So say you don't have an employer-sponsored 401k or 403b. That is okay. You have another option. You have something called a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. Basically what an IRA is, it's an individual retirement account. What this account does is it allows you to put $6,000 away every single year for your retirement. So there's many different places that have brokerages that you can open accounts in this. The one that I use is M1 Finance. If you guys want to open an account through M1 Finance, use the referral link. It'll help me out and it'll help you out as well, okay? So you can open M1 Finance, you can use Vanguard, you can use Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, Schwab. There's many different brokerage services that offer traditional and Roth IRAs. I personally like the Roth IRA a little bit better, but we're not going to go into those details right now. And we're not going to go into the details about opening the account. I just want you to think big picture and not the nitty-gritty details. So what you want to do is you want to get yourself a retirement account, whether it's a traditional or a Roth IRA. So you decided, hey, you know what? I'm picking this retirement account. We're going to do this. That's great. So you're going to pick one of these accounts. Depending on which brokerage firm you use or which company you decide to put your money in, that's going to determine what you can do. There are some companies that allow you just to put money into a target retirement fund, and just like this one, it's a set it and forget it. So what you're going to do is, if your birthday is in 1993, just like mine, what you're going to do is you're going to add 65 years, and whatever that year is, that's the target retirement fund you want to invest in. When you do that, that's all you have to do, and you set it and forget it, and just keep putting money in and you forget about it. Now, the brokerage firm that I use is M1 Finance. In M1 Finance, if you open a Roth IRA, you can't really invest in target retirement funds, but what you can do is you can invest in ETFs that mimic the same thing as a target retirement fund. So basically, a target retirement fund is 4 things that I mentioned earlier. So it's a total US market, it's a total international market, is a total US bond market, and is total international market. So what it does is invest in these things. So when allocating for this account, this is the allocations you're going to want to use. That's if you have to pick this if they don't have the target retirement fund. These are your 2 options when it comes to creating a retirement account. For me personally, I already have a 401k. I did not want to create an account similar to this in my Roth. In my Roth, I'm just focusing on an income play. But if I did not have a 401k, this is exactly what I'd be investing in, and I would set it and forget. And when it comes to doing retirement stuff, I just like to keep things simple. If I told you you have to buy real estate, you got to buy a home at a specific price, you need to put your money into stocks, this much in bonds, it's just way too much. I want to keep it simple. Just by creating a retirement account, you are doing all that you need for you to secure your retirement. If you literally did not listen to a single thing I said, just Google opening a retirement account, and there'll be different options that you just press on, you can open it, and then you can start funding it. Now, how much money do you need to be investing every single month to get the amount of money that you want? Over here, if you are a 30-year-old person, you're starting with $0, and you have 35 years until you retire at 65, and by the way, the retirement age is 67, I'm saying you're going to retire early. So at 65, you're going to retire 2 years earlier. So if you put your money away, and if you put away $510 every single month at the age of 30, you'll retire with $1.7 million. Now, if you're 40 years old, you're going to need to bump that up a little bit more. When you're 40 years old, you need to bump up your monthly amount invested to about $1,400 every single month. Now, hopefully at 40 years old, you have kind of progressed in your career where you can make a little bit more money. Not everyone has that case, so there's a couple options you can do to increase your funding to these accounts. Either you lower expenses or you increase your income. Ideally, the best thing to do is increase your income and lower your expenses to fund this account. What people get in the habit of making a mistake is, at about this age, people are starting thinking about funding their children's colleges and their wedding funds and things like that. You cannot be funding these things if you don't have any money set away for retirement. You cannot have an undignified retirement because you decided not to put money away. Your children have their entire life to work. They have their entire lives to pay for their student loans or to pay for their wedding. You do not have your entire life to fund your retirement. If you don't fund your retirement, you're going to be screwed. It is very important. You need to get serious about it, and don't let your college kids' expenses get in the way of funding your retirement. So at 40s, you need to put away $1,400. When you are in your 50s, you still have a chance of retiring with about $1.7 million, but you're going to have to bump up those numbers. So 30s was 510, 40s was 1,400. If you just started the retirement planning process in your 50s, you're going to need to be putting away $4,400 a month to get about 1.5 to $1.7 million. I mean, that is a lot of money, but at the same time too, it's not impossible. There are some people that do it. With a median income of $75,000 a year, if that's what you make, your monthly is about $4,500. you're probably not gonna be able to fund that. But as long as you can fund it with something, that's why it's important to start earlier. If you're later, you still have a chance, but you're gonna have to put more money. And the final age group is in your 60s. If you're deciding to just think about retirement at 60s, you're gonna need to be dishing out $20,000 a month. If you're dishing out $20,000 a month, you probably don't need a retirement account. So those are just some different numbers that I ran for you guys to see how much money you need to be investing for your retirement, just to make sure that your retirement is secured. All right, let's talk about the last thing. So in my opinion, I showed you guys the ultimate retirement portfolio. These are the different allocations in it. If you guys got to choose, this is what I would do. In my portfolio, I would completely ditch the bonds and I would have a 50% allocation in the US total market and 50% allocation in the total international market. And I'm gonna tell you why I want to do this. So get rid of the bonds and higher allocation international. So there's two things. The first thing I want to talk about is the higher allocation to international. In this graph over here, I'm going to show you is the middle class around the world growing. If you look at our numbers for the most part, us in Europe have pretty much stayed the same. There's going to be huge explosive growth in Asia and Latin America. So as a wise investor, like, I'm not deciding to pick what individual stock, I'm just looking at a macro trend. If I had to guess, these middle classes growing, there's going to be a higher need for businesses. And when looking at the total international market, 27% of the allocation is in emerging markets. And if you guys don't know what emerging markets is, here is a graph of all the different emerging markets. China, Russia, some countries in the Middle East. Those are some emerging markets that are happening, and if I had a bank on it, this is where there's going to be huge growth potential. So that's kind of why I would have a higher allocation towards an international market. Now, the second thing is completely ditching bonds. If you have a side-by-side comparison of the total US bond market to the S&P 500 in the last 10 years, you're going to notice that the S&P 500 completely blows the bond out of the water. And for good reason. Bonds are supposed to be a fixed income. Looking at this graph, in the last 10 years, bonds have only appreciated 8%. Bonds make sense to invest in when the yield rates are over 9, 10, 12% like they were in the 70s, 80s, and a little bit lower in the 90s. But if you look at that, the yield, the bonds are much higher. And the whole point of bonds is to have a fixed income security. So bonds get paid out twice a year. And if you're getting a 9% bond yield on bonds, that is an awesome yield. Right now, the yield is 0.74%. That is dismal. So there tends to be a tendency in the bond market is when the yield goes down, the price of bonds goes up. So they're inversely related. So yield up, price down, price up, yield down. So right now, the yield is down, the price is going up. But even in the price appreciation, 8% over 10 years, that is dismal. On top of the 0.74% you're getting from the yield, your overall return year over year for bonds will be 1.74%. That sucks. That's crap. Inflation rate has been 2.2%, and in the next year or two, like, the inflation will be a little bit higher because of all the money we're pumping into the economy. So we're basically losing money holding bonds. So right now, investing in bonds is probably not a great asset to have. That's why I just strictly focus on equities and zero bonds. So, but that is just my opinion. Like, you probably shouldn't listen to it because I'm just a random guy on YouTube, but that is the type of allocation I would have to do. So kind of just summing everything up, I want you to retire with dignity, and I want you to retire in a way where you can live your best life, you can redefine yourself, and things like that. And that's why I want you guys to get serious about retirement. You should even be getting serious about retirement when you're 16 years old in high school, sitting with your parents and talking about this stuff, because the earlier you start, the earlier you teach your kids, the better it is for everyone, okay? So just to kind of sum up why you need to get serious about retirement, Americans are not saving up as much as they need to be. You need to be saving up a lot more money than you think, and you shouldn't be relying on Social Security to be paid out because it may not be there. So, you know, the things you can do, you can open a retirement account, keep it simple. You don't need to be doing anything crazy. Just either use the 401k that your work provides you, or you open a Roth or a traditional IRA through any brokerage firm, put the holdings that you need to put in there, and then just put your money in, and then you set yourself for your retirement up. There's nothing else you need to do. You're basically securing your family's future, and you're having a dignified retirement. So thank you guys for watching the video. I appreciate you guys spending the time to watch this. If you don't mind, like, comment, and subscribe. It means a lot to me. And I hope you guys have a great day.